The Exploited is a Scottish punk rock band from the second wave of UK punk, formed in 1978. Originally a street punk band, The Exploited became a faster hardcore punk band with a heavy influence. Formed in Edinburgh by Stevie Ross and Terry Buchan, who were later joined by ex-soldier Walter Buchan, they signed to Secret Records in March 1981 and released their debut EP Army Life. The album Punk's Not Dead followed in the same year. Despite many lineup changes, Wattie Buchan has remained as the leader, and the band continued into the 2000s and developed a worldwide following. In 2012 the band started writing material for a new album. Career, 1970s-1980s. Original lineup was Terry Buchan, Stevie Ross, Alan Paget and Andy McNiven. Formed in the West Granton area of Edinburgh, a large grey council estate on the north side of the city, the band's politics being reflected in the CF name, coined by drummer and songwriter McNiven, his father being a Korean War vet, and communist. While in the early stages as a band with little equipment and a lot of attitude, the band were invited to play their first gig at Craigmire School. The band seemed to be a victim of their own publicity here. They had spray-painted The Exploited locally and had stolen Sunday papers, milk and bread rolls in the early hours of Sunday morning and redistributed them outside people's front door, with a note saying, "A gift from The Exploited." Their first gig was on Friday 15 December 1978. The date remembered by drummer McNiven as it coincided with a performance by The Doomed, The Damned by Another Name, at Clouds in Edinburgh, to which they went after the gig. The gig was attended by Terry's older brother Wattie, who had recently left the army and was a punk in London. Terry was replaced by his ex-soldier older brother Wattie. Andy McNiven and Colin Erskine were dropped from the lineup also. After a few gigs in and around Edinburgh, Stevie Ross left after an appearance in Aberdeen supporting the UK subs. A few months later, he and Terry Buchan formed The Exposed. The Exposed split in 1980 after a gig supporting The Exploited. While Terry left for London, Stevie was prominent in the Edinburgh band scene during the 1980s and fronted bands like Strychnine and Burlesque before becoming lead singer with blues band Roadside Medicine. Now based in West Lothian, he still sings and writes original songs. Inspired by the first wave of punk rock, the quartet created a simple, no-frills sound characterized by speed and aggression. In 1980, the group founded its own independent record label, Exploited Record Company, and released their debut EP Army Life, which was number 6 in the indie independent charts for 8 weeks, then was in the top 20 for 18 months. They then released another single, Barmy Army, which jumped into the independent charts and remained there for 53 weeks, peaking at number 4. Their single Dead Cities peaked at 31 on the national chart. Their single Exploited Barmy Army peaked at number 4 on the independent indie chart. In March 1982, the band signed to Secret Records, took a month to record their debut Punk's Not Dead, and released the single Dogs of War, which peaked at number 2 in the independent charts and number 63 in the national charts. Also in 1981, the band released their first live album, On Stage, recorded during a concert in Edinburgh. Thereafter, the band performed, along with Discharge, Anti-Nowhere League, Anti-Pasty and CHRON Gen on a tour called Apocalypse Now, which was recorded and released as a live album. Their album Punk's Not Dead, released in April 1981, went to number 20 in May, then number 1 on the independent charts. The band released the album Let's Start a War in 1983 and Horror Epics in 1985. The album Live at the White House was recorded in Washington, D.C. in 1985 at the 930 Club and was released in 1986. They also released the studio EP Jesus is Dead in 1986, following up with Live and Loud, a videography of The Exploited performing around Europe and in the United States. Sexual Favors, a single from the album Death Before Dishonor, was released in 1987. The album only ranked in the top 200 of the Britain Alternative Music list. The album sold out quickly, however. 1990s, in the early 1990s, they started working on the album The Massacre, which featured a new type of crossover thrash guitar style. Sometimes called also punk metal, Crossover is a form of thrash metal and hardcore punk which had mixed both genres together or had influences from each other. The genre lies on a continuum between heavy metal and punk rock. This album was by far one of the band's most commercially successful. The band went on to release a singles collection album in 1993. The Exploited also released the videography Live in Japan in 1993. Their album Beat the Bastards was released in April 1996. 2000s. In January 2003, the band released their album Fuck the System on Dreamcatcher Records, and also in 2003, they toured in the UK and US. On October 14, 2003, about 500 fans of the band started a riot in Montreal, Canada after an Exploited concert was cancelled due to the band not being allowed into the country. Rioters destroyed 8 cars and set them on fire, broke 11 store windows and caused other damage. The band were banned from playing in Mexico City due to the riot. 2010s. In a 2012 interview, Wattie Buchan said that a new album was being produced. In February 2014, he suffered a heart attack on stage during a performance in Lisbon on the band's Taste of Chaos tour with Hatebreed and Napalm Death. He was taken to a local hospital, where he was expected to receive treatment for at least a week. The band signed a deal with Nuclear Blast Records, and was to have many of its albums reissued in March 2014. The band has also confirmed that its first album in a decade will be released in late 2014. Current lineup: Wattie Buchan, vocals, Willie Buchan, drums, Irish Rob, bass, Matt Justice, guitar. Former members: vocals, Terry Buchan, a Euro original vocalist and founder member, guitar, Stevie Ross, a Euro original guitarist and founder member, Stevie Hey Boy, a Euro, wrote the first verse and the music for Army Life, Big John Duncan, also known as Jeff Lorenace, Carl Egghead Morris, Mad Mick, Nig, Gogs, Arf, Fraz, Jamie Buchan, Arf, Robbie Steve Davidson, Gav Little, Tommy Concrete, bass, Colin Erskine, a Euro original bassist and founder member, Mark Patrizio, Gary McCormack, Billy Dunn, Wayne Tiaz, Dethford John Armitage, Tony Lochiel, Smeeks, Jim Gray, Andy Lenihan, 1997 Beat the Bastards tour, Mikey, Arf, Davey, Jod the Big Gun, Spyro, drums, Andy McNiven, Paul Gill, Jimbo, Glenn Campbell, Danny Hatley, Steve Roberts, William Woolley Buchan. Discography: studio albums, Punk's Not Dead, Troops of Tomorrow, Let's Start a War. Horror epics: Death Before Dishonor, The Massacre, Beat the Bastards, Fuck the System, TBA. Live albums: On Stage, Live at the White House, Live and Loud, Live Lewd Lust, Don't Forget the Chaos, Live in Japan. Compilation albums: Totally Exploited, Apocalypse 77, Dead Cities, 25 Years of Anarchy and Chaos. Split albums: Don't Let 'Em Grind You Down, EPs, Jesus is Dead, War Now. Singles: Army Life, Barmy Army, Dogs of War, Dead Cities, Attack Alternative, Computers Don't Blunder, Rival Leaders, Sexual Favors, Videography, Sexual Favors, Live in Japan, Alive at Leeds, Rock and Roll Outlaws, Beat 'Em All. Live in St. Petersburg, music videos, Beat the Bastards, Never Sell Out. References. Notes: Laison, Neil, Punk of All Colors, The Exploited, ppA 51, 78, external links, official homepage, profile on newmusic.net, review of Beat the Bastards, fan page in French.